Hey everybody, I'm Oliver Wickham, and I'm really excited because my track World Away just released on Anjunadeep 13. So I thought, what a better time than now to give you a look under the hood to see what's going on inside the track and how I made it. So yeah, without any further ado, come along and let's check it out. All right, so here we are. Here is World Away. Now, to save time when I'm producing and to just kind of jump into ideas really quickly, what I like to do is, especially for the drums, which we'll take a look at right now, is I like to use drum racks with a whole bunch of the same instrument so I can quickly audition them and listen to them and see how they sound, see what I'm feeling at that time. So here's my kick rack, and you can hear I've got a whole bunch of different kicks kind of at my disposal. I ended up settling on this one, and then I duplicated it and rolled off the high end to create this tom kick that just sort of gives a little doo-doo at the end of the loop. Do-do-do-do-do-do. And then I've got this white noise snare thing happening here, just to kind of wrap up the loop with the tom. Layering things up, we've got some more hi-hats that come in. Got a little off-time hi-hat here. And a ride sort of hat. This one's cool. Yeah, for this groove, I kind of wanted to go for more of like a indie dance sort of disco thing. So you'll notice that I'm actually accenting the downbeats more than the offbeats. I've got the little off hi-hat thing happening here, but for the most part, it's the banta, 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 banta. Then the boots, 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 boots. That's kind of happening. And it just kind of gives it more of like a strut almost. All right, now let's check out some of the synth stuff going on. For our bass, we've got just a simple Reese kind of patch going on here in Diva. Already pretty beefy. I'm using the built-in chorus here. 3 oscillators, 1 saw, and then 2 squares, an octave down. Detune to give you that sort of Reese vibe, that detune texture. All right, so while we're on the bass, we've got this bass top thing happening over here, which is pretty much following the same notes as Diva, only it's giving us those upper end frequencies during the chorus to bring up the intensity and make us feel those chord changes a little stronger. Here it is by itself. You'll hear I like to use chorus a lot on my synths. I'm a big fan of the 80s, and nothing says 80s more than a nice dollop of chorus on your sounds. This sound in particular I made on the Novation Peak, which is behind me. It's my go-to hardware poly. It's really great at making those sort of 80s tones, and the chorus on it just sounds fantastic. So layering them together, you get this. And it really helps the riff kind of cut through when everything kind of comes in together. Just gives it this extra sort of level of intensity, which is really nice. And then we've got our intro lead. Let's take a listen to that. Also made with the Novation Peak. It's a very kind of distorted and almost like sour kind of tone to it. I think I was really playing around with detuning the oscillators quite a bit to get that kind of aggression out of it. and then also distorting it using the onboard distortion in the peak, which is great. And that sound is the same sound I actually used for the lead during the chorus, only I straightened out some of the oscillators and turned down some of the distortion to make the sound a lot more cleaner and a lot more pure. So this is how it sounds here. Obviously a lot more top end. I'm opening the filter up all the way, but all the oscillators are a little more locked and not so detuned, which is nice. So when the track first starts, you're kind of greeted with this high pass pad sweep that's made up of two different instruments. One we've got an omnisphere, and another one we've got the peak. I believe I'm playing the filter move just by hand over here. And then I'm using that same patch, only rather than using the high pass filter, I'm putting it in bandpass and modulating it with an LFO later on over here during the chorus. Yeah, actually some cool stuff that's going on in this sound is I've got track spacer, our old friend, but rather than side chaining to the kick, I'm actually side chaining to the vocal because I felt that when the bandpass was opening up, sometimes when it was getting into those vocal frequencies, the vocals weren't cutting through. It was kind of stepping on the vocals' toes. So I was thinking to myself, what if we use track spacer for the vocals instead of the kick? And it worked quite well. So I'll show you what's going on here when the vocals kind of kick in. And you can see here it's doing probably about 8 or so dB of gain reduction, but it's only happening in the frequencies that the vocal is singing in. So you don't really notice it duck that much. You don't hear it duck that much because it's only ducking the frequencies that are clashing and everything else it's leaving. So moving along to more fun stuff, we've got this crazy LFO lead, which is kind of like the main feature piece for the track. And I'll play it for you now. So a whole ton of crazy stuff going on in there. So before we get into the processing, let's mute all that and just listen to the patch itself. So what I'm doing here is I've got two basic shape sawtooth waves. One is up 7 semitones or a fifth. So you get that nice kind of like fifth harmony. So it's kind of playing two notes at once. But then using LFO1, what I'm doing is I am flip-flopping between each of the oscillators so that while one is playing, the other one is not playing, and then vice versa. So once the LFO gets to its peak, you're only going to be hearing one of them, and when it gets to the bottom or the trough, you're only going to be hearing the other one. So because they're playing different notes, you get this nice kind of fluttering effect between the two, and that sounds like this. I'll put the rate really low so you can hear what's happening. And then another thing I did is I panned the oscillators so that one of them is on the left and one of them is on the right. Not fully, but it kind of gives the sound a little more width and a little more of a psychedelic kind of feel because it's ping-ponging back and forth between the ears. And then when you raise the rate of the LFO, you get some cool stuff happening as well. it gets into like these audio rate territories when you turn it all the way up, which is really cool because you get these interesting kind of overtone effects. It's really sweet. And then I've got just a simple filter here, using it to raise and lower the intensity of the sound as we go through. And as you can hear, when you've got just these two parameters to play with, there's a lot you can do with just the cutoff and the rate. So let's listen to some of the processing and check out that. Let's go one at a time here. We've got a T-Rex 2A. Doing a little compression, giving a little extra sort of heft, some analog heft. We've got a big Valhalla vintage verb, 20 seconds. Who doesn't like a long reverb? Come on. Running that through some decapitator. I like to put decapitator after the reverb sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes I like to do that because what it does is it distorts the reverb tail. So that all that ring out that you're listening to after I play a note, if you have the distortion before the reverb in the chain, then you're only distorting the sound going into the reverb. But when you have the distortion after the reverb, then that means all of that ring you can then affect with the drive. And I'm not doing anything too crazy here, but if we turn it up, so you can already hear it, especially at these low sort of cutoff areas. Let's turn up the drive. Hear that? That's some of that magic, because it's just distorting the reverb tail. Let's turn the output down. Obviously, that's a little too much, but you get the idea. It's cool to play around with stuff like that. You know, if you want to try putting stuff in weird places, sometimes you can get really, really cool effects. So play around and see what you come up with. And then we've got this plugin here, which is super cool. It's this VHS audio degradation suite, which is free. And you use it through Reactor, which is with Native Instruments. And it's got some really cool effects in here. We've got this awesome warp thing, which gives a really cool kind of pitch warble. It's got some really nice drive. Lots of really cool sort of tools in here to make your sound like it's been processed through magnetic VHS tape. So if you're trying to add character, if you're trying to add some of that weird sort of analog funk, this is a great way to go without actually getting a tape machine. All right, so that looks like it's pretty much it for the synth stuff. We've got a couple little extra things happening here during the second verse. Let's take a listen to those real quick. Got some little filler notes. Recorded on the peak. We've got this bass boom also made on the peak. Got kind of an Inception vibe there. And then we've got this string thing. I think this is the Olafur Arnold's string evolutions. If you don't know, I also score films and commercials when I'm not making dance music, and I've got lots of interesting film scoring tools in my library, and sometimes I like to bring them out and play around with them when I'm making dance music too, and this was one of those times. So I'll play you the patch naked. Spitfire's got some really excellent tools when it comes to making cinematic stuff and having orchestral stuff do things that are beyond just like standard legato patches. So this violin is one of them. I've filtered it pretty heavily here with an EQ. Already, it barely even sounds like a violin. A little decapitator with the punish button on. Sorry, it's a little harsh. But that definitely does not sound like a violin now. And sounds kind of bad. But when you dunk it in some reverb, it's like we're back in the industrial 90s again. Yeah, so that's it for the synth stuff going on. Let's take a look at the vocals now. One of the cool things I'm doing with the vocals here is I've got a throw effect. And what that is just the regular vocal, but instead of hearing it clean, you're just hearing it with all the reverb turned to 1,000,000. And then what I'm doing is I'm just automating it up at times where I want to hear the sound of my voice, but in outer space. So let's take a listen to what it sounds like together. Could have stayed. You can see as we kind of go up this hill here, the word stayed gets brought in, only, drowned in reverb to kind of create an interesting effect. And then I cut it out right away with a really sharp sort of hill here. Could have stayed. Broke myself down. So when I start singing, it's out of the way and it's not causing any problems and interfering with my actual voice. So vocal throws are really, really cool, and they're a lot of fun to play around with. All right, so let's take a peek at some of the vocal processing. So here's what it sounded like by myself, untuned and completely naked. Crossed my head now. Then with a little auto-tune in graphical mode, making sure that everything's nice and tight. Crossed my head now. Here we have a little LA2A. Crossed my head now. Doing about 2 to 3 dB gain reduction, just kind of clipping the peaks off of it. We've got some decapitator, my old favorite. Crossed my head now. It's quite nice, just giving it a little extra warmth, a little more hair almost on the top end. And then we've got a EQ, getting rid of all the stuff I don't want. Crossed my head now. The mic that I was using was kind of on the bassy side, so I had to do a very aggressive EQ to get rid of all that stuff I didn't want. Then we've got not one, but 2 de-essers after my EQ. I would open them up, but the last 2 times I tried, my entire Ableton session crashed. And I think that's because I'm recording video and recording audio and trying to load this beast of a session all at the same time. So let's not do that. Moving on, it looks like I thought about using a chorus, but didn't. Used a little bit of extra compression on the back end with the Ableton compressor and an 1176. Crossed my head now. Just to kind of pinch it a little more, and then some classic Valhalla vintage verb. This setting is on the plate, which is nice for vocals, and I have it set very aggressively to kind of make it sound like I'm singing in the middle of a room. Yeah, so that's it for the main vocal. And then if we want to look at the chorus vocal, we've got this massive stack over here of 3-part harmony. So I've got a mid voice, a low voice, and a high voice. The mid and the low I triple tracked. So I recorded myself singing it 3 times. And then I panned those hard left, hard right, and then the center for both the low and the mid. And then for the high, I just ended up recording myself twice and having it left and right. So if we listen to, let's take a listen actually without any of the bus processing. I thought the world away. I thought the world away. I thought the world away. Kind of sound a little bit like a barbershop quartet like that. But with some chorus and some EQing and some extra little saucy stuff at the end, you get this. I thought the world away. I thought the world away. And then one more cool thing that I do right after the second verse is there's this effect where it sounds like the chorus vocals are starting far away from you, and then they get really close. And the way that I achieve that is by automating the reverb, so that there is more reverb at the beginning. And that creates the effect that the vocals are just kind of creeping in on you from this like spacious sort of space. So yeah, thanks so much for sticking around to the end of the video to watch all the little things I'm doing in World Away. It's out now on Anjunadeep 13, so please give it a listen, give this video a like, and I'm sure I'll see you around soon. So thank you so much, and have a good one.